For more than 6 decades, British forces have trained in central Kenya under the British Army Training Unit Kenya. What began as a partnership on counter-terrorism and mutual defence has been overshadowed by accusations of egregious misconduct on Kenyan soil. In recent weeks, Kenya's parliament has published a devastating report cataloguing human rights abuse, sexual violence, environmental harm allegedly committed by British soldiers over many years. It's no casual inquiry. It drew upon a year and a half of public hearings in Laikipia and Samburu. Community elders, bereaved families, victims of sexual assault, conservationists, and Labour advocates stepped bravely forward to testify. Their accounts paint a bleak picture of a force that, through repeated failures of discipline and accountability, have forfeited the goodwill that once justified its presence. The report declares that some Kenyan communities now see British soldiers as occupying forces rather than defence partners. That stark indictment arises from events that can no longer be dismissed as isolated misconduct. Testimonies described killings linked to drunken altercations, fatal hit-and-runs, intimidation, assaults, and a disturbing pattern of sexual violence. Women reported being attacked while herding livestock or collecting water. Children, fathered by soldiers who promptly rotated back to the UK, have been left with stigma and no legal recourse for support. Over 1,000 allegations of sexual abuse are said to exist. For many, the name Agnes Wanjiru symbolises this crisis. A young mother, she disappeared in 2012 after drinking with British troops in Nanyuki, and her body was found months later, dumped in a septic tank bearing signs of stabbing, beating and terror in Nanyuki. Evidence emerged that a soldier confessed to a killing and even showed comrades the body, yet nothing came of it for years. Obstruction was alleged at every stage. Only now, 13 years later, has a suspect finally been arrested in Britain and faces the possibility of extradition to Kenya. Justice delayed on this scale becomes a further injury. The report also highlights environmental destruction. Live fire exercises sparked an enormous wildfire in 2021, destroying wildlife habitats and farmland, leaving thousands with respiratory problems and causing extensive ecological loss. Meanwhile, unexploded ordnance continues to injure and kill civilians. The committee found that required environmental and social impact assessments were never properly undertaken, despite Kenya's laws demanding them. Perhaps the most troubling theme is impunity. British authorities invoking diplomatic immunity or claiming lack of jurisdiction have repeatedly sheltered their personnel from prosecution. Cases involving death or grievous bodily harm have simply evaporated. Kenyan MPs argue that the existing defence cooperation agreement is fundamentally flawed and fails to specify accountability for serious crimes. So what now? The Parliamentary Committee recommends a complete overhaul, a visiting forces code of conduct enforceable under Kenyan law, mechanics for prosecuting serious offences, proper environmental safeguards and support for and compensation for victims, including abandoned children. In short, basic mutual respect. The British government's response has veered between regret and defensiveness. It says its submissions were not properly reflected in the report. It promises to investigate where new evidence is provided. Yet the credibility test lies not in diplomatic phrasing, but in concrete action. For too long, Britain's attitude has suggested that abuses abroad can be brushed aside. That era is ending. It's ended. This inquiry is not only about Kenya. Many African states host foreign military forces, yet struggle to enforce protections for their own citizens. Kenya's parliament has taken a stance that others may now follow. A democratic nation insisting that partnership must never mean subordination. Britain once vowed that its troops would bring professional standards, shared security, local investment. Those promises are honoured only when accountability is real. Kenya is seeking a simple question. Does the UK value justice as much as Nanyuki, in Nanyuki as it does in Nottingham? For Agnes Wanjiru's daughter, now a teenager, and for so many others whose lives have been marked by trauma, there's still no closure. Kenya has signalled that justice must no longer be optional. The United Kingdom should listen, cooperate fully, and demonstrate that moral responsibility doesn't stop at its own borders. The integrity of a military alliance is measured not by how well partners train together, but by how well they uphold the law together, that is the test now between us and before us.